It was raining insects on Yuuzhan Tar, the former Coruscant, once bright center, now dimmed, defiled by war, transformed by the Yuuzhan Vong into a riotous garden. To some, Yuuzhan Tar, creche of the gods, was a world returned to its bygone splendor, lost and rediscovered, more alive for having been conquered. Its orbit altered, tweaked sunward, 3 of its moons steered away and returned, and the 4th pulverized to form a braided ring, a bridge of supernatural light, along which the gods strolled in serene meditation. And yet insects were raining down on Supreme Overlord Shimra's rainbow-winged worldship Citadel, his holy mount rising from a Yorick coral cradle to tower over what had been the most populous and important precinct of the galactic capital. A kneeling gathering of priests, warriors, shapers, and intendants waited for the Supreme Overlord to speak.
You are asking yourselves, where have we erred?
Shimra said at last.
Does the fault lie with our cleansings, our sacrifices, our conquests? Are we being tested by the gods, or have we been abandoned? Is Shimra still our conduit, or has he become our liability?
Shimra paused to look around the hall, then asked,
Do you think that your distrust in me, your whispered doubts, benefits our noble cause? If I can hear you, what must the gods be thinking when they look into each and every one of you? I will tell you what the gods are saying to another. They have lost faith in the one we set upon the polyp throne, and in doubting the Supreme Overlord, our yoke to them, they doubt us. And so the gods visit plagues and defeats on their children, not to castigate me, but to demonstrate where you have failed them.
Below the Yorick coral throne sat his shamed familiar, Onami, part pet, part speaker of truths few dared to voice.
You disgust me,
Shimra told them.
You think I'm spouting sacrilege. You recoil and grovel because you know that I speak the truth, and that truth rattles you to the core of your being. You'd do well to chop off more of yourselves in penance and devotion. Give all of yourselves, and it won't be enough.
He looked down at Onami.
You think I speak in riddles, like this one?
Onami's deformities owed not to birth, but to rejection by the gods. Once a shaper, he was now little more than a misshapen jester, one eye drooping below its mate, one yellow fang protruding from a twisted mouth, one portion of his skull distended, as if the shaper's va tumor had failed to seat itself properly. Long and slender, his arms and legs twitched continuously, yanked about by the gods, as they might do to a puppet. Shimra's piercing gaze fell on War Master Nas Choka, noble in appearance despite his modest stature, with fine black hair combed straight back from his face and a wispy beard. Choka had been escalated in the wake of Savang La's death, but was not yet universally revered, despite his numerous victories in hot space.
Learn from the mistakes of your precursors, War Master, and all will go well for you. Fail me as Domain Law did, and I will personally make an example of you that future War Masters will be forced to consider before they accept escalation.
Nas Choka inclined his head in a crisp bow and struck the points of his shoulders with the opposite fists. A Dovan basal cushion floated Shimra out of his throne to the ring of flower petals that encircled it, where he dismounted the cushion. Ankle deep in the flowers, he raised his long-toothed scepter of rank.
All can be made right by the coming sacrifice, but we must take care against interference.
The heretics, August Lord, a priest said. Shimra waved his empty hand in dismissal.
The heretics are nothing more than a pestilence, a plague of stink bugs we can eradicate at any time. I speak of interference from the unconverted, who move silently among us. Those who survive the planetary bombardment and world-shaping. The slaves who escaped the main seed ship that delivered the world brain to Tar. The resistance fighters who profane our holy ground. And the Jedi.
As if on cue, Anami scrambled to his feet and followed Shimra along the flowered ring, reciting, "The shamed are naught but nuisance flies, at least as seen through Shimra's eyes. The Jedi are the ones he mourns, edged and sharp as Senelak thorns." The skip opened a void directly in front of Jaina, but she managed to twist free in the nick of time. The X-Wing bucked, then righted itself. Jaina thumbed the trigger of the lasers, pouring fire into the gravitic hole. The Dovin Basal rushed to absorb the energy, leaving the Coral Skipper momentarily unprotected. It was all the time Jaina needed. The X-Wing starboard lasers hammered the skip mercilessly, splitting it down the middle. Long plumes of incandescence streamed from the rend. Then the skip vanished in blinding light. 2 and 3 flights were meeting with similar success. Kip calmed Jaina. "Just learned that Alliance agents have sabotaged the hyperdrives on all but one of the freighters. They're ours now." "That's great news," Jaina said. "Here's an even better piece. Your parents are here." Jaina smiled. I felt them. Her eyes followed a blip on the display screen that could only be the Millennium Falcon. It was headed her way. She sent a greeting through the Force. Her mother would know who it was from. It wasn't long before she could see the Falcon with her own eyes. Her parents were maneuvering the ship as deftly as if she were an X or Y wing, top and belly quad lasers dispatching Coral Skippers unlucky enough to be in the way. A sleek Alliance picket, bristling with weapons, flew in the Falcon's wake. As the 2 ships closed on the number 2 carrier, the picket fired a harpoon directly into the nose of the Peace Brigade freighter at the other end of the carrier's intestine-like cofferdam. "Knockout harpoon," Twin Suns 4 said. "Like a giant hypodermic syringe filled with coma gas. By the time our people board, the brigaders will be out cold." Transparent respirators clamped over their faces, and C-3PO shuffling behind them. Han and Leia emerged from the crippled freighter's docking bay into the large cargo hold beyond. Everywhere they looked, Peace Brigaders of various species were passed out on the deck, or slumped, unmoving against bulkheads. Han and Leia scarcely had time to take stock of the situation when a hatch in the forward bulkhead pocketed itself, and a Klatooinian stepped into the hold. 20 blaster rifles swung to the green-complected, scrunch-faced humanoid before he could so much as raise his taloned hands in surrender. "I'm Hobyo," he said. A breather mask dangled around his thick neck. "The one who sabotaged the hyperdrive! Surprise party!" A human colonel signaled everyone to lower their weapons. "Next time, give the code words first, before you come barging into a secured area," he snapped. "You're lucky you didn't get yourself killed." Hobyo relaxed somewhat. "You won't find any prisoners aboard the freighter. They were transferred to the Yuuzhan carrier." "Which way?" the colonel demanded. The Klatooinian pointed to port. "The umbilical is attached to the cargo hold adjacent this one." Han motioned with his chin to the passageway. "You coming?" "As soon as I provide identities of the Peace Brigaders." Han nodded and waved to C-3PO. "Let's go, Goldenrod." The droid started. "Sir, wouldn't it be best if I remained aboard the Millennium Falcon?" "Cacmame and Meewall can take care of the Falcon. We might need you to translate." Han and Leia led the way into the portside cargo hold. Han spied the cofferdam entrance and ran for it, only to stop short at the mouth, then half-turn and flatten his back against the bulkhead. "You really don't want to see this," he said as Leia approached. She studied him in puzzlement. "Remember that time on Dantooine when I got the Balmora flu? Well, this thing," Han jerked his thumb toward the cofferdam opening, "is what I figure the inside of my nose must have looked like." Leia smiled dubiously and stepped around him. It can't be that bad. She froze.
Why, it's an ochre,
C-3PO said, standing somewhat akimbo at the entrance.
The word derives from the proboscis of a Yuuzhan pack animal. The floor is what is sometimes referred to as a microbial mat, and the viscous liquid drooling from the ceiling actually houses the bacteria that engineered the entire tube.
I told you he'd come in handy, Han said. C-3PO disappeared into the organic cofferdam, sloshing along the puddled floor. They covered the 100 meters in record time, eyes forward and arms straight at their sides. They could tell which way the strike troops had gone by the gaping holes the soldiers had blown in membranous interior bulkheads and iris portals. Leia ignited her lightsaber. From ships forward came the sounds of war cries and muffled shouts, blaster fire, and the dull thudding of amphistaff strikes. They sprinted toward the sounds of battle, rounding a corner to see allies and enemies down, smears of red and black on the floor, refreshment for a host of tongue-like creatures that were gorging on the spilled blood. Han shot from the hip, dropping a Yuuzhan warrior with a Kufi dagger in each hand. With a downward slash, Leia cut the legs out from under another, who had launched himself at her. They followed the strike troops farther forward. The soldiers held their blasters at high port, sweeping them from side to side. Stepping over sprawled bodies, Han, Leia, and a squad of troops reached another intersection. The squad leader was trying to decide which fork to take when Hobyo finally caught up with them.
The prisoners are on the upper deck, in a hold after the command chamber.
The Klatooinian edged his way into the intersection and gestured.
This way.
A steeply sloped corridor led up to the carrier's command deck. At the top of the slope, 2 strike troops had a peace brigader in custody. A strong smell of glitterstim spice wafted from the human's uniform. The brigader led the rest of the way to the forward hold. There, squashed together inside a sticky net, sat 3 Yuuzhan. One wore a command cloak that hung from bony implants on the tops of his shoulders. The strike troop's colonel was circling them proudly, with his hands planted on his hips, thumbs backward. Across the hold, 50 or so Alliance prisoners of various species were stuck to the deck in a pool of blorash jelly.
Han! Leia!
One of them called out. The speaker was a thick-set human, with pleasant, if undistinguished features, and a full salt and pepper beard. Judder Page, Han said, grinning as he approached. He scanned other faces in the crowd. And Pash! Kraken nodded his head in greeting. Rescued by celebrities.